the issues CEOs were struggling with, as well as key executives, emerging leaders too. And they found that it was isolation.
It's the one thing that can link everybody together. And if everybody goes through the same exercise of, this is what we believe as an organization.
Outside of tech, where 1 in 5 employees feel a sense of isolation, they feel lonely, they don't have a close friend at work or someone, a work bestie or someone they can connect with.
So if you believe that leadership is about mentorship, what the hell do you do specifically, intentionally, to reinforce that purpose? That if we believe in something more, it can be the thing that links everybody inside an organization.
Hi, if I could just have 45 seconds of your time for 2 quick points before we begin this episode. The first is thank you. Thank you for listening or watching this episode of the Leadership Standard. It means the world to us. We have a passion for what we're doing here. And the second thing is, if you haven't already, we'd ask you to subscribe so we can continue to bring the most influential, relevant, and inspiring leaders in the world of small to medium-sized business across Canada and the world. Thank you. If you've ever felt the fog of more tools, more platforms, more demands, yet somehow less clarity, today's conversation is going to cut through all of it like a spotlight. Because our guest today is Ron Tite, who has this rare ability. He can take the overwhelming complexity that every small to mid-sized business owner feels right now and distill it into something simple, human, and actionable. In this episode, you're going to learn the one belief that should guide everything your business does, what Ron calls a brand belief, and why most companies get purpose dead wrong. You'll discover how purpose directly fuels growth and how it can eliminate the isolation so many CEOs and leaders feel today. Ron also breaks down how AI is reshaping strategy, not in a theoretical way, but in a here's exactly how to use it Monday morning kind of way. If you want clarity, if you want focus, and if you want to stop doing random acts of marketing, this conversation will save you years of frustration. Let's dive into this powerful conversation with my friend, mentor, and one of the most generous minds in business today, Ron Tite. Welcome to the Leadership Standard. I'm Jamie Mason Cohen. I am thrilled to welcome back a friend, someone I consider a mentor to myself and many in our community, and that is Ron Tite. Ron Tite is the founder and CSO of Church and State Ad Agency, the leading ad agency independently across Canada. They've worked with brands like Google, Walmart, and Microsoft. And what I respect so much about Ron is, first of all, he's generous. He's generous with his time, with his expertise. He's always there to help business owners. And he is someone who is not only a keynote speaker, probably the leading keynote speaker in the country. He is on the front lines. He is a founder. He is a chief strategic officer. He's been a chief marketing officer. And he brings that holistic perspective to the challenges that business owners like you face today. And we're going to dive into his best-selling book, his Globe and Mail best-selling book, The Purpose of Purpose, Making Growth the Heart of Your Business. And if you see by my Post-it notes, I've read this when it came out. I reread this again. This is going to help you and it's going to transform your business, along with a course that's coming out that is inspired by this book. Ron, welcome back.
Well, after that introduction, I think I should just go, thank you. I'm going to go. I cannot live up to that. But thank you, Jamie. It goes right back at you in terms of friendship and mentorship. Thanks for having me.
Great. You know what? Before we dive into the book and challenges that I want to focus upon, you're a prolific reader and writer. And I always find that you have your finger on the pulse of what businesses are going through now. What are you curious? What are you most curious about right now, even this week? Something you've read, something that you're writing about?
I've been working on something. Well, there's 2 things that I've been working on that sometimes it starts with a line, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, that's what people are going through. And so one of those lines is the fog of more. which is that there's so much pressure in business to get more and more and more, to get more platforms, to get more devices, to get more software, to get more insight, to get more data. And we're to a point now where we've never felt like we have enough. We don't feel like we have enough. And so the fog of more is this idea that it's actually that all this abundance is actually killing clarity. And what we need more and more is clarity. We need clarity so we can make the best decisions in the moment that we can. So that's one thing I'm working on. And then the other thing is this idea, this is where it starts, right? There's like a weird idea of that I've initially called the shortcut paradox. I don't know if that's the right word, but the shortcut paradox, which is, end consumers and clients and prospects, if you're in B2B, they want shortcuts. That's what a great brand is. It's a shortcut. It's like, oh, I know that brand. I know what they do specifically. I know they always deliver. It's a great cognitive shortcut for us. We want shortcuts because we want user interfaces that are intuitive and that work. Like those are all shortcuts that we want because we're stretched for time and cognitive budget. The problem is that a lot of people, instead of working really hard to create shortcuts, are just using shortcuts. Like we're taking shortcuts to drive a superficial metric. We're taking shortcuts instead of, being successful, of having the illusion of being successful. We're putting our say before our do, all those things. So those are two kind of areas that I think are big holistic areas that I'm working on. Of course, AI filters into every single conversation about how it's changing work and roles and dynamics. And so I keep digging into that as well.
How do you use AI now in church and state?
Oh, a bunch. So one, Google is one of our biggest clients. So, we actively use all of the Google tools, and we've been helping Google kind of sell AI and, not selling that, to kind of highlight the positive role that AI can play in Canada and Canadian businesses. And, we just shot a national campaign that featured Access Now, a really important organization, the Ottawa Board of Education, and Destination Canada. And three completely different organizations are integrating AI. So do we use it for the quick and easy superficial stuff of like, the equivalent of AI-powered search? Of course we do. Do we do it for, kind of low-end studio stuff? Hey, convert this PDF to a JPEG, or, those sorts of things. Of course. But more than that, we're kind of building custom gems and custom GPTs and custom notebooks where we take a large amount of information. That might be stakeholder interviews, that might be proprietary data, and to bring all those things into a bank of knowledge and then continually check against that bank of knowledge. So, and look for, verbatims from that bank of knowledge or specific data points from that bank of knowledge. So that's really where we find it's really, really great, is having a base of information and then being able to customize insights based on that.
Okay, there are many ways to define purpose. In the book, you talk about defining it as brand belief. Can you expand on how you define purpose in The Purpose of Purpose?
You know what, Jamie, what's really interesting is I wrote the book. I've been speaking about this topic for a long time. And I don't think in the book there is an actual definition of this is purpose. Like, I don't think I ever articulated a great job. There's some stuff in there, but it wasn't so much later. I was like, oh, this is the statement that this is what they need. Because I think purpose means a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people. And we call it a brand belief, which is a higher order belief. So, but I think what purpose is a fundamental belief that drives what you sell and how you grow. So it drives what you sell. It is the reason you're in business. It drives what you sell. It is strategically connected to where you make your money. And this is where a lot of business has gone wrong, where people, what ended up happening is like that, the broader society looked at businesses and all of you in the capitalists, you in the private sector, you're responsible for all these bad things going on. And as business leaders, we went, no, please don't hate us. No, we wrote a purpose statement, right? And so business leaders that they wrote things like, we believe, something community. They're like, just make sure community is in there and we're good to go. And so we had this lofty idea of what purpose was, but the reality, as it wasn't strategically, it wasn't connected to where we made our money, and it wasn't a path for us to grow. And so that, to me, is what a purpose is. It is strategically, it is a belief that is connected to where you make your money. It drives what you sell and how you grow. Because if you only believe in the product and you make a widget and we believe we make great widgets, our purpose is to make great widgets. Great. What happens when widgets are no longer in style? What happens when no one's buying widgets anymore? You're done, and there's no path for you to pivot. What if widgets are great, amazing, going through the roof, but you want to drive alternative revenue because you bought new partners or you want to go public or whatever? Well, you need some sort of path to chart what other things are you going to do to drive growth. And purpose can be that thing. Instead of what normally happens, which my friend Warren Tomlin calls random acts of digital. It's a bunch of people doing a bunch of random shit. And they either work or they don't work, but there's really no path for it. So to me, that is specifically what purpose is. And we call that a brand belief, but you can call it purpose if you want.
And what does this look like in your company, in Church and State?
So that's such a great question. So I think the statement, it finishes, we believe that. Like, what do we fundamentally believe? And what do we do to reinforce it? So every organization can have this statement. We believe that, so we do this by doing this. And that's the challenge to every single person watching or listening to this. Just write that statement for your organization. Can you do it? We believe this, so we do this by doing this. We believe this, so we do this by doing this. Now, the we believe this, so we do this is the first test. Again, this was where a lot of people said, we believe in saving the planet, so we make a cracker. That doesn't connect. That doesn't work. So to answer your question at Church and State, what do we fundamentally believe and what do we do to reinforce it? We believe that people used to vote with their wallets, but now they vote with their time. That is a fundamental belief, that is a belief about consumer behavior. We believe that people used to vote with their wallet, now they vote with their time. So we create communications that win that battle by being relevant enough and interesting enough and timely enough to win the battle for time.
And how is this, you touched upon it earlier, how is this connected? How is growth connected to purpose? Because one of the ideas that came across in the book is it's all about driving growth.
Yeah, because it answers the question, what's the purpose and purpose? Like, why the hell are we doing these exercises? What is the point of writing an amazing purpose statement? Well, the point and the purpose of a great purpose statement is that it focuses your activities. It prioritizes your activities. It helps inform additional activities so that you can grow. That's the point of it all. This is not about just getting PR. This is about driving growth. And if your purpose statement isn't resulting in a growth for your organization, financial growth, engagement growth, systems growth, process growth, then I think you've got it wrong.
And on the other side of that, what are some of the myths of purpose that we get wrong in the greater business community?
Well, what we get wrong is, one, we think that purpose is a philanthropic initiative, right? We believe that the air should be clean, so we donate a bunch of money to the Clean Air Fund. Again, that's nice, and that sounds nice. It's not purpose. That's philanthropy. It's just not. It's cause, and that's not what this is about. So I'm assuming that every organization has some sort of philanthropic allocation of their budget to cause. So you go, we give 2% of our revenue, whatever, buy a pair of shoes, we give a pair of shoes, whatever it is. And that's great. And you should do that to be a responsible, corporate citizen. But that is not why you are in business. You are not in business. The second thing is that people feel like because people like you and I, admittedly, have done such an amazing job of taking these wonderful case studies and saying, look at Tom's shoes. That's right. Look at Patagonia. And they're saving the planet. And so people go, oh, that's what purpose is. And they just try to live up to those things. Oh, Ben and Jerry's just wrote a tweet about a political thing. So we should all be political now because that's purpose. And those are the businesses that are being celebrated. Yeah, there are some businesses who organically can be tied to those sorts of things. From their birth, Tom's Shoes was buy a pair, get a pair. That's what makes it a great organization. But please, man, every shoe organization does not need to there are other ways you can be a good corporate citizen. It's not purpose. Maybe you make the best sneaker that helps people jump higher. That's what you do. And so create a purpose that's more strategically connected to your strength opposed to your philanthropic aspiration.
Let's talk about you. You meaning you as a leader. Another thing that I greatly admire and respect about you is that, like, right on your website, it says lead with purpose. You've led a successful Canadian business. So when you talk about leadership, you are a practitioner of leadership from the inside out. So what does it mean to lead with purpose today for a small to medium-sized business owner?
Well, I think there's a couple of things there. It's one is, do you have so we have an organizational purpose, right? We believe this, so we do this by doing this. I think we can also have a personal purpose, and sometimes those are connected. It's certainly my personal purpose is the exact same as church and state, which is I believe people used to vote with their wallets and now they vote with their time. So I create communications and help organizations, win that battle. And my approach is a little bit different because I believe in the power of humor, I believe in the power of mentorship, all those sorts of things. So I think you also need a personal purpose. Like, why are you in your role? And so from a leader, whether if you're a CEO or if you're a middle manager, like maybe you believe that leadership is about mentorship. Maybe you believe that leadership is about making tough decisions. Maybe you believe that purpose, that leadership is about being in the trenches and rolling up the sleeves and doing stuff. Like whatever you think it is, then you need to reinforce that purpose through your specific actions. So if you believe that leadership is about mentorship, what the hell do you do specifically, intentionally to reinforce that purpose? Do you have every single member of your team have a one-on-one coffee with you once a quarter? Do you schedule it in? Do you prioritize it? So, what do you do? And that is the strength inside organizations. There's so many employees, members of teams who they've heard it all. They've heard it all. They've heard our people are our most important asset, our most important. They've heard it all. And their gut reaction is to eye roll every time there's an all-staff email that comes out, because there is just historically leaders have not done it. They've said it, they haven't done it. So I think that is the most important thing is to communicate. And, one of the most important things I did was that I didn't, in your lovely introduction, you said I'm the founder and not CEO. I'm not the CEO. And why the hell aren't founders supposed to be CEOs? No, I didn't think I was a good CEO. I thought I was too busy doing a bunch of different things. And I didn't feel that I could give the personal attention to both the people and to the numbers to be the chief executive. And so I went out and recruited someone who I gave equity to come in and be that role. I thought that was my most important role as a leader, was to not be one.
On that note, if we just stay here for a minute in terms of leadership within a small to medium-sized business, Tech did a nationwide survey of what the issues CEOs were struggling with, as well as key executives, emerging leaders too. And they found that it was isolation, feeling it was lonely at the top and lonely throughout the organization. And the data that I've read backs that up outside of tech, where 1 in 5 employees feel a sense of isolation. They feel lonely. They don't have a close friend at work or someone, a work bestie or someone they can connect with. In your book here, it says on page 224, there's a little piece that says connection over isolation. It says, finally, employees want connection. They want to feel part of something bigger, like a company mission or a team. Meaningful connections, whether with colleagues, mentors, or the company's mission, can transform an employee's experience. Can you expand on how a clear purpose within a organization can really help combat isolation within teams, and bringing it back to the business case for doing so?
Yeah, that's such a great question. That's one of the best questions I've got about this book, and nobody pulled that out. We know, leaders know that it's certainly younger workers, have prioritized purpose. In fact, Gen Z is the first to prioritize, place purpose over compensation in terms of what they want out of their work. They're crazy, but so they think purpose is more important than compensation. The problem is that because of all those things that we got wrong with purpose, leaders are like, they want purpose. That means they want us to donate our money. They want to all work for some not-for-profit. No, that's not what they mean. They just wanted to ladder up to something more important. And where that is really important is that this is the thing. Purpose can be the red thread through an organization. It's like, what does sales have in common with marketing, have in common with IT, have in common with, the warehouse staff? The purpose. It's the one thing that can link everybody together. And if everybody goes through the same exercise of, this is what we believe as an organization, and they clearly know, and this is my personal and valued role in bringing that purpose to life. So we all believe in this, but I know specifically what I do. It's that age-old story, which you've probably heard, of the person seeing a janitor at NASA, and the janitor at NASA says, "I helped put a man on the moon." That is exactly it. That if we believe in something more, it can be the thing that links everybody inside an organization, and it provides a path for them to connect their personal behavior to something more. That is fulfilling. And that's what they want.
And what you pointed out, I had to do a double take, because I thought I might have heard that too, but the way you phrased it was really absorbed, was that idea that younger people are more interested in finding that connection and finding that purpose than even compensation today, and how much that's shifted from a transactional culture that you and I of a similar generation might have grown up on to where it is today.
Yeah. Brene Brown had this really great insight. This is her thinking on mine. And she did it with an interview with the New York Times. And it was the difference, this generational difference, where I'm Gen X. And so Gen X grew up with parents who said, because I said so. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I working in payroll? Why am I filling out the spreadsheet? Why do we have this procedure? We were raised with parents who said, because I said so. And we're like, got it. Okay, I just put my head down. The younger generations are like, why am I doing this process? What does it all mean? And they're not happy with, because I said so. They want the answer to the question, why? And the why is the why am I here? And the why is the why am I doing this Excel spreadsheet, or why am I doing this particular role? And if we can say why you're doing it is because we believe this, and we need you to do that in order to get that. And what a lot of organizations were doing was they were going, oh, we are a CX-focused organization. We are a customer-focused organization. And that's where they thought they were bringing meaning. And I would go in and say, well, what about the people who don't have a customer-facing role? What the hell do they believe? What about Sarah works in payroll? What do you tell her? That she's not customer-facing. And so it's way better to go like, no, it's not about being CX-focused. It is about believing in something more and that every single person has a role, knowing what role they play in bringing that to life.
You mentioned something about why. I've always been fascinated with people who I admire and respect why. I mean, Nietzsche said, "He who has a why can bear with almost any how." And then Viktor Frankl took that in Man's Search for Meaning, and he expanded on that in a different context. The idea of people find their why through a devotion to a higher purpose, or to nature, or through work, to another person. It could be to family, to raising kids. You and I have, families we're so proud of, or it could be finding meaning through suffering. And that thread, even Angela Duckworth's work in Grit talks about purpose being part of passion. There's passion and there's perseverance, and that perseverance, by finding a connection to something greater than yourself, brings an academic context to that. So someone like you who, like I said, I've known you now for 7 years, first from afar, and then I got to know you, and I thought, well, I'm really curious as to what your why is. What is Ron Tite's why, even before this book came to fruition, in starting this business when you started it?
Well, I think the why is, and I would say that's the brand, because I believe people used to vote their wallets, now they vote their time. Like, how do we capture people's time? Like, what's the best way of capturing people's time? But so because of that, I would use the why, but different, like, why do I do what I do? And it's because I'm curious. Are you curious? Like, I went down the road. I was a stand-up comedian for, but we've had this conversation, but I was a stand-up comedian for 20 years. And the first time that I went to do, I just wanted to do it. I didn't have aspirations of being Jerry Seinfeld. I didn't think I'd have a massive career. Surely didn't think I'd be doing it for 20 years. Why did I want to do it? I wanted to do it because I was so curious about what would happen if I did. I was so curious about the process of going into, like, what was that? And that is the thing that's like, why do I do a lot of stuff? Because I'm curious about the activity. I just did a really super cool thing this week. The Awesome Music Project, which is a really wonderful organization. Terry Stewart and Rob Carley started about making the connection between music and mental health, and how we can all, how music can help us all better, and healthier. And they do this live night called Songs and Stories concert series. And they came to me and said, would you like to be a storyteller at this? All you need to do is pick a song that has significant meaning for you. And it doesn't have to be deep and dark, like it's the song we played on my mom's funeral. Or like, no, it's just like whatever has a story to it. So I chose Purple Rain. And then they said, okay, great. You're gonna tell the story about why Purple Rain is important to you, because Prince was the first concert I ever went to. And then Stephen Stanley from Lowest of the Low is gonna get up and he's gonna do a cover of the song right after you. And then in working with Stephen, and he had a band on stage with him with the accordion and the sax and guitar, like it was incredible. And he said, you're going to tell your story, and then we're going to start to play the song underneath you. And I was like, that is like, when do I get to tell a story in front of a live audience with some of the best musicians in Canada, playing Purple Rain underneath me as I tell this? It was incredible. And it was all because I said, yeah, I'm really curious about how that would go.
Wow, I want to do that now. That sounds incredible. I want to see a recording of that when it comes out.
I'll send you the recording of the story. I don't have a recording of their cover, which was incredible, but I'll send you a cover of a version of the story. It was really fun.
Ron, in the book, you talk about one of your business partners, Robin, who said, great leaders aren't just remembered, they're quoted. And she was speaking about a mentor. And you said that one thing that you admired about Robin is she could pull out these various quotes in the right place at the right time from her mentors verbatim. I want to ask you, because you're a mentor to many, who's a mentor who you find yourself often quoting?
The very first job I had was a full-time job. First job I had was a paperboy, I think. But my first full-time job was working in the School of Business at Queen's University. And, but I was a phys ed grad. I had a phys ed degree. And here I was working the business school, and I was helping launch the National Executive MBA program. And the director was a guy named Gordon Cassidy, and he was a stats prof. And my take on it was, why do you want me to work here? Like, why do you want me to, like, I'm a phys ed grad. Like, what? And I'd worked in lifestyle management for them over 2 summers. And they said, no, you're going to work full time launching the program or helping launch the program. And I said, why me? I'm a phys ed grad. And he said, look, there are 4 things. One, you're competitive. Because of your athletic background, you're competitive. You know what it means to compete. Secondly, you know what it means to compete as part of a team, that you know the individual contribution and how that relates to team success. The third thing is that you're really social, and that counts for so much in just getting people on side and getting to sell people and communication and all that. So you're very, very social. And the last part is you went to Queens, you're probably pretty smart. So you got all those 4 things, all those other stuff. And then he said the line that echoes in my brain every time I'm faced with something new. And that is, only rocket science is rocket science. There's just and when we were launching this program, it was the first executive MBA program delivered to 11 cities across the country using video conferencing with a professor and a student. That had never been done before. And as we all faced this task, there was no benchmarks. Nobody had done it. He just kept saying, only rocket science is rocket science. We're smart people. We can figure this out. We'll just figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And I think that's such a great lesson for anybody that, you know what? You may not have the answer on the tip of your tongue, but spend some time, you'll figure it out.
And that mentor seemed like mentors come into our lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime, and they transfer judgment. And I feel that the ease in which you just recalled that is a demonstration of that. It happened for a reason, a season, and it stuck with you for a lifetime in some way.
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to be in that job. I applied to Club Med. I was going to go work at Club Med, and I didn't get the job. And the first time in my life, I was faced with I didn't get the thing? I always get the thing. And I was left, and because I turned down the offer to go work in the business school because I wanted to go take a year off, and I didn't get the gig. And then Gordon called, and he said, job's still available. I heard you heard you're not going to Club Med. And I'm sorry you're not going to Club Med, but we would still love to have you on this team. And I joined the team, and I learned so much, not just from Gordon and John Smythe, the associate director, but all of my colleagues there. It was just such a wonderful learning experience.
And just briefly before we wrap up, you included that example in the book, and what does mentorship have in common, or how is it connected to purpose from your research, from your experience?
Well, one is that, mentors can help us see the personal role that we play in bringing purpose to life, right? Because I think people come into a job and maybe we get because it's been beat into our head in onboarding, right? Like, this is what we believe. But when it kind of trickles down to our own personal behaviors, I think mentors can often just be that outside observer to have you both give you the tough love that you need, and can maybe also be the cheerleader that you need. And I think we either undersell or oversell ourselves. And so they can be that observer that helps us align and prioritize our personal actions so that we can, ladder up and have success inside an organization.
I love that. I've never heard that duality of the tough love and then the cheerleader, right?
Yeah, it's so weird because sometimes you're like, you're not that good. And other times it's like, what are you talking about? You're going to be amazing at that. And we get both. You know what's funny is I once interviewed Jack Welch on stage, and I asked him about who his mentor was. And I think his line was, I think mentorship's a crock of shit or something like that. He said, inside organizations, the official mentor is BS. He said, normally it's the person who shows you where the cafeteria is. And then he said, here's the important part of mentorship and innovation. And if you think about, if you define innovation by find a better way every day. That's all it is. Just find a better way every day. And a mentor is anybody who can help you do that. It's not some official relationship you have with somebody. It's just anybody along the way who can give you insight that maybe you don't have to help achieve that.
Okay, I never saw it like that, but Guidemo is controversial, but pretty successful. So
yes, he was a product of his time, that's for sure.
Amazing. So just to wrap it up, 3 quick rapid fire questions about you right now.
Okay.
I call it the 3 A's. So the first one is, what's one action that you're taking in your life to move forward in some capacity?
The action I'm taking forward is, what am I doing? Well, I'm really, my curiosity around AI is something where I'm intentionally, exploring things. And I just had a conversation with a group of friends around, like, it's really just a search for use cases, right? Like, it's just like, okay, I know I can do a bunch of stuff, but what can it do for me in this particular area? So the action is being really intentional and conscious of how I'm exploring the use of AI.
The second one is aha. What's one insight you've had recently that you're interested in exploring?
There's this aha that I've called decentralized collaboration with centralized accountability. And it's kind of in the fog of war a little bit, but what I think is happening inside organizations is that, and it's because of a whole bunch of different things. It's because we should be nice, and because of teamwork and pushing for collaboration and inclusivity and like all those things that are really, really important. Of course. But what we did, and the result of all of that, is that we have this decentralized collaboration where we want to speak to everybody. Let's make sure we get Jamie's perspective on that. Has Sarah commented on that? We got to check with this committee, and we got to check with this member of the community, and we got to check with the board, and we've got to check with everybody. So it's this very decentralized collaboration where we're trying to hear from as many voices as we can. But we fail to understand that it's still centralized accountability, that one person still is accountable for the decision. One person needs to be able to say, thank you, we disagree, we are moving in a different direction. And what I'm seeing is that people are afraid to make decisions. They're feeling that they just haven't spoken to enough people. And so it's just this ongoing useless collaboration where we're talking to more and more people, and no one's making a decision.
And one appreciation.
Okay, good. And appreciation. So one appreciation I have is, I just commented on this, someone's LinkedIn post. And we've had some break-ins in our neighborhood and some car thefts and stuff like that. And of course there's a street WhatsApp group, and people have been complaining, and that, city councilor to this. And I want to appreciate every person in the public sector. I want to appreciate all first responders, people in healthcare, people in government. It is often, especially people in government, it is such a thankless job, and all people do is complain, and sometimes justifiably. But I also think that we're really blessed in this country to just have a public sector that is empowered to do right things for us. And there's so many people who keep our lights on every single day, metaphorically, in a variety of different ways. And I want to appreciate the public sector.
Love it. Ron Tite, I'm always better after a conversation with you. I'm always a little wiser. You always spark ideas that I run off and I start researching after our calls. And I appreciate the time. And I can't wait for our audience to hear not just about what we talked about, but more. And if you want to hear more from Ron, because Ron is too humble to promote himself often, go to rontite.com, and I'm going to post information about a must-have online course that Ron has been working on that builds on these ideas in the purpose of purpose. And if you haven't read this book, go out and get it, because it will be the book that you need for 2026. This is a leadership standard. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
Here are my 3 main takeaways from this conversation with Ron Tite. Purpose is not poetry, it's a growth engine. Ron reframed purpose for me in a way that was almost liberating. Purpose is not a slogan. It's not philanthropy. It's not a poster in the office. It is a fundamental belief that drives what you sell and how you grow. If it doesn't lead to clarity, prioritization, and revenue, it's not purpose, it's PR. And for every business owner listening, that means the quickest path to alignment, culture, and growth is answering one simple fill-in-the-blank question. We believe blank, so we do blank by doing blank. That alone can eliminate years of confusion and unlock next-level momentum. The next takeaway was connection beats isolation, and purpose is the bridge. The number one challenge CEOs report today is loneliness. And Ron explained why purpose is one of the most effective antidotes to it. Purpose becomes the red thread that connects your entire organization, from the warehouse to marketing to payroll, so everyone knows the role that they play in the bigger picture. It dissolves that I'm on my own feeling leaders carry and replaces it with alignment, belonging, and direction. Purpose isn't abstract, it's connective tissue. And as Ron said, when someone can say, I helped put the man on the moon, isolation disappears. And the third takeaway for me was clarity is the new competitive advantage. One of the most powerful ideas Ron shared is what he calls, quote, the fog of more. As leaders, we're drowning in more tools, more data, more noise, and getting less clarity. The companies that win in 2026 and beyond won't be the ones doing more, they'll be the ones doing less, better. Purpose becomes a clarity filter. If it doesn't reinforce the belief that drives your business, you cut it. And when it comes to AI, Ron reminds us that the real opportunity isn't the tool, it's the use case. The clarity around how you will apply it. Clarity is how small to medium-sized business owners punch above their weight, and purpose is how you find it.